welcome back to Cymbals and Cynicism, a podcast where we talk about all of the things I love, some of the things I hate, and this wacky adventure we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I'm glad you're here today as we talk about drum corps, running, finale versus Dorico, and people who complain about drum corps. So let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Amazing results so far. 311 listens through podcast apps. Fun fact, YouTube doesn't count the same. It keeps track of their own. It doesn't feed back to the host. And I think we're up almost to 30 on YouTube. So we're closing in on 350 listens in, just over a week, essentially. Amazing. We've got listeners in Canada, Japan, Israel, Germany, 3 listeners from Germany. I think I know who you are. So welcome. Worldwide podcast, I guess we can call ourselves. So awesome. Just amazing. Be sure to tell your friends about the pod. Give us a rating. Leave us a constructive comment. That helps us grow. And we love to hear from you. And we love you appropriately. Did you do your homework? Did you say hi and mean it? How did that make you feel? I tried it at work. It made me feel good and honestly a little awkward, got a little bit of strange stares, but that's okay. Most people said hi back and ultimately it made me feel good. Keep doing that. A few items from the Department of Errors from last week. Apparently the first smoker was not $70, it was $150. Apparently I had discussed wanting a smoker before it was given to me as a gift. The Cavaliers 007 show did win the championship, so I was right about that. But it was in 2004, not 2006 or 7, like I said. So I was wrong about the year, but I was right about the championship. And you all got me. I did tell you I would do a running distance last week, and I didn't. I skipped that segment. It was a time issue. Still learning about pacing and timing. We do get to the running distance today. So that is coming up. Some feedback from our listeners. We'd love to hear the feedback. Cred Ohio asks, if bourbon burns when you drink it, then why do you drink it? Over time, I could tell you that it burns less over time. Most burn becomes part of the taste. It just becomes part of the flavor and things you either enjoy or don't enjoy. It's called spicy. Typically, what we consider burn to the layperson is considered spicy. If you're thinking of wine, it would be more like considering a wine as dry, kind of the same sort of terms. I don't like spicy bourbon. I like my bourbon on the smooth end, on the sweeter end. So I don't particularly like a lot of burn, even though I've been drinking bourbon for quite a while. You just realize it's worth it. I wonder the same thing probably about people who eat really hot peppers or really spicy food. To each their own. Another feedback from Baltimore, Maryland. I like Matt's take on DCI, therefore I like Matt. However, Phantom's Harmonic Journey is a favorite of mine, and I think it was 2003, not 2004. True. Another mistake for me. It was 2003. I was off by 1 year. We got some other really great reviews on both Apple and Spotify. We appreciate all of that. We got some constructive criticism about the audio and the balance levels, and we're trying to make every episode better, so we do appreciate that. We're still learning and growing, as I mentioned. Give us time. We'll continue to improve. As George Patton said famously, a good plan violently executed is better than a perfect plan executed next week. And we are definitely the former, but hopefully working toward the latter also. You can like us, follow us, and rate us on any podcast platform that you listen to. You can also text the show by using the link at the bottom of the description, and that will be a text directly to us. And if you send us a note or ask us a question, we'll try to get it on next week's podcast. On today's episode, more drum corps. We're discussing world championships coming up. Harrison is our guest to discuss drum corps and make some predictions along with us. My running journey, how that started and how it's going. Finale versus Dorico, and maybe a little bit of Sibelius along the way. And finally, how I feel about people who complain about drum corps. Lots to do, so let's get it rolling. Okay, drum corps. We are coming up to World Championship Finals this week, August 7th, 8th, and 9th. That works like this. Prelims are on the 7th. Semifinals on the 8th, and then finals are on Saturday. It is kind of like a tournament. All world-class corps can participate in prelims. Lower scores are eliminated, moves on to semifinals. Eventually, we end up with the top 12 corps that will compete Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Joining us today is my son Harrison. He's 17 years old, going into his junior year of high school. He is in the band, plays trumpet. He's also field commander this year, first-time field commander for him. Indeed. He also runs cross-country, track, and is on the robot team. And somewhere in all of that, he still finds time to watch YouTube for about 27 hours every day. So I don't know how you fit all that in. Harrison, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. We went to a live drum corps show last night and didn't get back until 1 a.m. and then I woke up nice and early this morning for cross country. But I'm excited to be here and to talk about drum corps. Like you said, I watch a lot of it, so hopefully I can share some insightful thoughts.
I don't know why you're tired. You slept most of the way home.
I did sleep most of the way home, but it's okay.
We'll get into this year in a minute. Last episode, I talked about my love of drum, why I love drum corps, some of my favorite shows growing up, and also from this year. So start out, tell us why you love drum corps.
I love drum corps because it's a unified experience of all the people in it, and they are able to all unify themselves towards one goal and work an entire summer worth towards that goal. And they're also talented, and they're able to share whatever that emotion or story is with the audience as well. And that's something that's really special to me, is the emotion that they put in is then transferred to the audience, and I think that's really special.
What are some of your favorite corps? Not necessarily this year, but all time. You know, you watch old stuff, new stuff. I know. What do you...
Sure. If we start with the old, I like SCV from the 80s and 90s. I like the Scouts from the 90s. And then when we go into the 2010s, I like the Bluecoats a lot because of the innovations that they do. They're probably my favorite corps overall. And then I really like Crown's brass, especially from the 2010s when they were winning all those aughts. I love the way that brass sounds. God's Horn Line.
All-time favorite show. You can only pick one. What are you picking?
2018 Santa Clara Vanguard. Babylon is my favorite show of all time. It's one of the shows that I first loved when I started getting into drum corps, and it's always been my favorite, I think.
Well, it's been your favorite at least since 2018.
Yes.
And you picked a good one that obviously won the championship that year, so super good performance of that. Dream corps to march, no other obstacles are involved.
The Bluecoats is the easy answer for me, no question. Their innovation, I always think that their shows are cool. I always think that they achieve to a crazy high level. And I realize that you said no obstacles, but they are also based in Canton, which is sort of home team also. If it wasn't them, it would probably honestly be Phantom because of their shows recently and because of all the history that they have. I love, like, the Chevron and all those old shows from when they were really, really good. Mind was super cool last season. I love a lot of the things they've been doing, too. I love the use of classical music. So definitely those two. But Bluecoats is far and away the corps I would love to march.
Your mother would rather have you see March Phantom because that's her favorite drum corps.
She would, yes.
But I'm from Canton, so I'm on team Blue, home team. Ready to talk about some favorites from this year?
Absolutely.
So we're just talking about 2025. Favorite show of the year? You first.
Boston Crusaders Boom. We saw it live last night with the new closer. It was the premier closer. I know that because I've watched every performance of theirs at least 3 times. I love the high energy. I love the musical selections. I love the drill design. I love the props. The props lit up at the end last night. There's a lot of shows I like. I love most of the top 7 shows, but that show is to me so much better in most ways, and I hope it wins. But we'll get to that later. By the way, we did not confer on our favorites, and we did not confer on our predictions. So I have no idea. I mean, other than the fact that we talk about drum corps almost every day, I have no official idea what he's going to say. And we agree on this one. I love that's my favorite. That's no surprise because I think if you go back about the last 6, 7, or 8 years, BAC is almost always my favorite show. Glitch was my favorite show last year. Goliath, etc. There's just so many great shows every year. They do the cool thing, and the new ending
Wow, like we did not expect that to be out on the field last night.
I've been saying it was coming for 2 weeks. No Time for Caution from Interstellar.
No, it was awesome. And when the show obviously got a standing ovation at the normal last ending, and I looked at the field commander, and they were still conducting, and I just lit up. I turned around and smacked you in the leg, like, look, they're still conducting.
I think I was the first person to stand up, too.
There's going to be more. Here it comes. And, so, man, it was a thrill to see it. You don't get, watching as much YouTube as we do, you don't get many, wow, I didn't expect that moments live.
True.
And that was one of them, and super awesome. Let's talk about any other favorites for the year. I'm going to go, my second favorite of the year is going to be Mandarins. That's maybe a little off the radar.
That is not what I was expecting you to say.
But again, they have often been my first or second favorite show. Sinnerman was just off the charts. I loved Off the Wall. That wasn't my favorite from that year, but really liked that one. And so I'm going Mandarins. The show's called If I Must Fall, and I think it depicts falling down and then getting back, but always getting back up. And so I love the way they tip over the props. Performers fall down and then get back up and get back into the forms. They do a really great job, both visually and musically, of this falling down. The show is totally aggressive, totally high power, high energy. The ballad is beautiful. Billie Eilish. I mean, on the field, go for it, right? It's just a great show. I really, really like If I Must Fall by the Mandarins. What's your second favorite?
I was not going to say the Mandarins. You might have just sold me on the Mandarins. Like I said, I love all of the top 7 shows. I'm going to have to go my second favorite as a tie between the Bluecoats and the Santa Clara Vanguard. And I'm going to go a tie because I want to say Santa Clara, but we saw them live last night, and we didn't see the Bluecoats. And I think because of some of the technology things that the Bluecoats do that are super cool, that do not come across on a live stream with the mics on the field as well as I think they would live, I'm going to put them at the same level. I really like both those shows. Santa Clara's show, the avant-garde, but the letters are capitalized in a way where it spells Vanguard, and it's just, like, weird the whole time. Like, how much weird stuff can we put in a drum corps show and still be Santa Clara Vanguard? And that's the show. And then the Bluecoats do the Bluecoats thing where it's kind of weird and science-y, but also super groovy, and there's tons of syncopation, and it's crazy hard and cool.
Favorite sort of individual musical moment, whether that's a song or whether it's a segment or, something smaller, not maybe the whole show, but favorite musical moment of the summer. What do you got?
Before last night, I would have said either the groove hit that's like the second half of the ballad in the Bluecoats show with the trumpet duet and the trombones on top of the props just ripping. Or I would have said the closer of Phantom's show is also great. They come like in line with their props that are these big white sheet curtain things. And it's sort of like a company front, and they play Chopin, and it's really cool. Otherwise, after last night, I think also up there is the Boston Crusaders closer now. I love Interstellar. Interstellar is my favorite movie of all time. One of the reasons for that is the soundtrack. And at the beginning of the year, Boston released their repertoire sheet. And at the end was No Time for Caution by Hans Zimmer, which is like the main theme from Interstellar. And I was like, if they do that right, it's going to be so cool. And until last night, it was not in the show. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And that was there, seeing it live. One of my favorite movie soundtracks. They played the crap out of it. That is also on the list for sure.
I'm going to go Crown's opener.
Wow.
Not the intro, not the slow, but once they get into the meat of the opener, it's a combination of Music for Prague 1968, which is one of my all-time favorite concert band pieces. Weird flex, I interviewed Karel Husa when I was in college, along with my buddy Greg Miller. We called Husa, and we were doing a pre-concert talk. And I've always loved Music for Prague, just total intensity, and they combine that with Carmina Burana, And when you put those two together, just the power, I'm going with that. I'm going with classic music, classic crown, classic brass. And that's probably not what you thought I was going to say.
No.
But I'm going, I'm surprising you today. Let's move on to favorite visual moment from the year. I'll go first. And my favorite visual moment of the year is not exactly one moment, but it's a ton of tiny moments that all sort of are one moment. And I'm going with the Blue Coats. Their show is called Observer Effect. The entire core wears glasses. And there are just so many small, detailed visuals throughout the show where they reference their glasses, they look and hold their glasses, and they look at the soloist, or there's just all these tiny little moments. I think that's one of the things over the last couple of years that the Blue Coats has really done well, is find tiny little visual moments that just make another level of depth to the show. And so I know it's not maybe one moment, but I'm picking a bunch of tiny moments throughout a show. I'm going Blue Coats, glasses, observer, visual.
I can definitely agree with that. I think those are very cool visual moments, and every time I watch it, I see another one. I had two before you said that. One of them is back to the Mandarin show again. It's called If I Must Fall, like you said. And throughout the entire show, there's about 1 million visuals where quite literally the visual is somebody in the form just falls down on purpose and then gets back up and runs back into the form. And I think that's really cool. My other one is from the Blue Stars, which is called Spectator Sport. And it's just about sports. They do a bunch of visuals that represent sports. There's a moment in their opener where they lay down and make a tennis court shape and play tennis in the form. And I think that's hilarious. And I wanted to give a shout out to the Blue Stars because I really liked their show this year, actually.
Okay, crazy random moment of the year. What do you guys? Is there anything? I mean, maybe I picked this one just because I wanted to talk about something, but anything that just crazy moment.
I really like how much time the Boston Crusaders spend on their knees. Like, that's super random, and they do it for no reason at all. It has nothing to do with their show that I can decipher. What would having a bunch of, like, literally marching on your knees have to do with Boom? Makes no sense. But I love when they're in, like, this salsa section and they just go down and they're just marching across the field on their knees. I think it's hilarious.
There's a tie for me here. Crusaders have a lot of really fun, hip moments in the show. One is they are using baton twirlers, which is not often seen or ever seen in drum corps. They also have the mellophones playing each other's horns.
So cool.
And then you mentioned the tuba catching the rifle, and then there's also a spot where the trombone players play the slides with their feet.
Yeah.
So Crusaders do a bunch of crazy stuff. And then I'm also going to say, you already referenced it, you thought it'd be my favorite visual moment, the Mandarin's ending. When the props fall over and the one performer runs all the way down the length of the field and catches the last prop. Invigorating moment musically and visually. The first time that kid ran down the field, I'm like, please make it, please make it, please make it. And they did. It's like, they're going to catch it. I called it. Great moment. I think the message there, too, is, yes, we can continue to fall, but also, like, we can learn from that mistake and not fall. And we can learn to catch ourselves, too. Sure. And I think that gives, again, the show sort of a whole last depth. Memorable.
Another one.
Okay.
That I want to shout out that is also a cool visual moment that I did not see coming, so I'll consider it random. The Troopers show. In the closer. I'm not a huge fan of this show. I think it lags at a lot of sections. In the closer, they brought out this coffin-shaped prop, and they marched it all the way down the field to Mahler's Resurrection, and then they revived a trooper out of it. The Troopers Drum and Bugle Corps has existed for a long time, and they've always had this one, like, main character that's dressed like a trooper. And they brought him out of the coffin at the end of the show. And they'd never done that before. That was at San Antonio last Saturday. And that was, first of all, random. Makes no sense, but also really cool. So I'd give a shout out to that one, too.
So our last favorite of the year is most memorable moment, and you just stole my most memorable moment at the end of the Mariner show, the coffin. The only thing you didn't mention about that, while they do that, when we saw it the first time, we were watching Flow, I said, is that a coffin? Then they showed up close. But also they're playing one of my favorite pieces of classical music, Mahler, the end of Mahler's Second Symphony, his Resurrection Symphony. So not only are they playing Resurrection, they resurrect Trooper at the end. That's my most memorable moment of the year. I just think that's wow. I've watched a lot of drum corps. I've never seen anybody do that before. Most memorable.
I've got a couple, but I'm going to go with one. First of all, I have to give a shout out again to the Boston Crusaders last night. Live, seeing the new closer for the first time was great. And then I also want to give the Bluecoats Ballad and closer. I just love that show also. The ballad, the 2 trumpet solos, reminds me a lot of Downside Up, which is one of the most memorable drum corps shows of all time. So I'll give it to that one too.
All right, well, that's our favorites from the year. Harrison will be back a little later in the episode to help out with predictions for finals. I think I'm going to run a 5K. That's how my running journey got started. In elementary, middle school, I played soccer. I played baseball. I didn't play any high school sports. I wasn't really good enough anyway, and band became my thing. After middle school, I didn't really exercise at all. In fact, I often joked that I wouldn't even run if I was being chased, because since I was so slow, they'd catch me, and then I would get beaten up and also be out of breath. So I might as well not run anywhere, and I pretty much kept to that for decades. Fast forward in my life to November of 2020. All of us remember November of 2020 for one reason or another. I remember it because I had COVID pretty badly. Aches, chills, it was hard to breathe, loss of smell, loss of taste. I had that bad penny metallic taste. Did you have that? I had that. Coffee started tasting bad. Cheese-flavored potato chips, for some reason, tasted really bad. I don't know. That's not the point. I was not hospitalized by any stretch. I was miserable, though. I emerged from my 10 days in isolation, and I had made a decision that I was going to run a 5K. I don't know what made me make that decision. It was probably something having to do with the delusions of aches and pains and chills. But at any rate, I emerged from my isolation and declared I'm going to run a 5K. My usually supportive wife literally laughed, which I can understand. She was skeptical. I'd never run 5 meters, let alone 5,000. So I was not completely offended, except I sort of was. I usually, when I declare something like that, I usually follow through. By the way, for those who struggle with the metric system, 5K is equal to 3.1 miles. So I was declaring that had never run anywhere, I was going to do a 3.1 mile race. So I started my journey. I began by planning, and I was a long-term sufferer from COVID, especially with breathing. It took me a long time to fully recover my ability to breathe correctly, and I'd also, through 2020, as a lot of us did, I gained a lot of weight through all of that time, so I was significantly heavier than my normal self. I remember getting on a treadmill a month later, December 26th. It was the day after Christmas. I got on a treadmill, and it took me about 26 minutes to walk 1 mile on the treadmill, and I was completely exhausted. Even at that slow pace. And at this rate, doing the math, it was going to take me more than 90 minutes to run a 5K or to complete a 5K. An average person at that age for me was, I think, between 35 and 40 minutes was average for that age. I was in my late 40s, mid 40s at the time. Fast forward a few months, I got better. I continued to work. And in May of 2021, I ran my first 5K. shockingly under 30 minutes. I was a 29:30 was my time that day. It was the Hall of Fame or Draft Day 5K in Canton, Ohio. Since that time, I've had ups and downs, successes and failures with running. I have not always been consistent. I did learn along the way that shoes are a big part of the running life. And I have always loved shoes, dress shoes, casual shoes, sneakers. And I get to buy shoes, and I get to buy shoes in all kinds of awesome, bright highlighter colors. I love the highlighter color shoes. If you're a runner, the answer to your next question is Brooks Adrenaline is the current shoe of choice. Several 5Ks. I've run a 10K. I've lost count of how many 5Ks. I did a 10K, did not enjoy that length particularly. A friend of mine who will be on the podcast in a couple episodes, who's sort of my running mentor, encouraged me to run a half marathon, which I did. I ran the Columbus Half Marathon. That's 13.1 miles. For those of you that are not runners. And then just over a year ago, I completed my first marathon. I promised myself I was going to do that before the age of 50, and I did. I came in just under the age of 50. It was 4 hours and 48 minutes. It was rainy. I was a fledgling runner. It was my first marathon. I didn't train like I should have. My goal was 5.5 hours, so I was way under that. So in terms of that, I think I crushed it. Someday I may do another marathon. I'm not sure. I really like the half marathon distance. Right now, 5Ks are sort of my jam. It's a much easier distance to train for. Training for a marathon is a lot of time in a lot of months, over a lot of months. You figure if it's going to take you 5 hours at a person my speed to run a marathon, you have to basically train up to 20 miles. That's almost 4 hours just every time you have to train at that distance. And who has time for that, right? I mean, that takes a long time. So lately I've been focusing on 5Ks. Even more recently, I've been on the struggle bus for consistency and distance the last 3 or 4 months. Mental and emotional struggles coupled with some foot pain recently have really set me back. Back in January, I set a goal for myself that this summer I was going to break my 5K time in under 25 minutes. My PR's 27:30, so getting under 25 is not unreasonable. It's a pretty realistic accomplishment, but would be a major accomplishment, but not unrealistic. And that's been put aside. I've not accomplished that goal. I won't accomplish that goal. I had to take some time off in April and May. I had to take more time off in June and July for the foot pain, which I'm just getting past. And so we're going to open up my Strava here and see what I've done the last couple of weeks. And it's not going to be very good. For those of you not familiar, Strava is a community app for runners, bikers, swimmers, any sort of athlete like that, and it tracks your distance and your time and other things. It gives you a place to connect with other people who are runners and bikers and swimmers where you can encourage each other, and it keeps track of miles per month, per year, etc., etc. You can also put just like your shoes in there, and it'll keep track of how many miles you have on your shoes, which when you're a runner is a pretty big deal. Not surprisingly, in the last week, I ran 2 miles, and that was 2 1 miles, and I biked 11. The week before that, 0 miles on foot and 22 on the bike. The weather has been super humid here in Ohio, heat index in the 90s and above, and that really honestly just gave me an excuse not to run at all. Although the good news is in those 2 miles, my foot felt really pretty good. No pain, little swelling, no pain. My cardio, however, was awful. Again, my weight is up. My flexibility right now is really bad. Stretching is non-existent. It's not good. Not good report for me. The goal this coming week for me is to push that distance a little bit, see how it goes, keep track of the mental game, keep track of the foot, and see how all of those kinds of things. I can't go too hard, too fast. I also will have shin splints occasionally, so I have to keep track of how far I'm going and how fast I'm going to get there. So it has to be a slow pace for me. And that's this week's check-in. Not a great report, but thanks for letting me fail in public. And next time I will do better. Thanks for being my accountability buddy as we move forward with my running journey. some drum corps predictions. Harrison's back to help me, and we're going to start with our caption awards. Should be noted that we did not discuss this in any way. So we agree.
Not at all.
It's an accident. Remember, this is for Harrison and the audience. Caption awards are not from finals night only. Caption awards are the average score of the 3 nights in that caption. Prelims, semifinals, and finals. So it's not just 1 or 2 judges that are deciding these captions. It's several over 3 nights. You got to have 3 really great runs in order to win the award. Let's start with Harrison. Let's start with you. Give us your prediction on brass.
This is going to be a sneaky pick and a risk. Santa Clara Vanguard. Hearing their brass last night, they beat Boston 2 nights ago in brass. And to me, Boston is the other favorite. Their brass is so shiny and crispy. I'm picking them to win brass.
I didn't look at the recaps from last night, but SCV's brass line is tight.
It's so loud.
They're tight. I'm going Boston, and I know SCV's beat them, and I know I would probably have given it to SCV last night, but I think that's because Boston has been spending a lot of time on that closer, and I think now for the next 2 weeks, I think it's back to the beginning and clean I think Boston's taken brass. Let's go to percussion. That'll start with me because I'm the percussionist. Start with you for the brass because you're the trumpet guy,
Sure.
And I'm the percussionist, so we'll start with percussion for me. I don't know. I didn't look at the ratings. I don't know where they are, but this is a heart pick because way back in the day, one of my favorite drum lines to watch was Santa Clara, and they're really good this year. They got a really lot of tight moments. Love the pit too, because you can't just think battery. It's a percussion award. It's not a battery award, so I'm going SCV.
I like that pick a lot. However, not so fast, my friend. I think because of what you said about pit, and also having looked at captions, because I can't really tell just by listening to a drum line, but having looked at captions, taking the pit into account, I'm taking the Blue Coats in percussion. Their pit is groovy.
Their pit is fire. Their pit is really, really good. Okay, let's go to guard. I got a feeling we're going to agree on this one. Guard. Who wins guard?
Boston Crusaders.
BAC. I mean, they are, yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's not.
Ridiculous.
If they don't win, I think it's probably an upset. Okay, best visual. I'm going to go, that'll go with me. I'm going... this is close for me, especially after last night, but I made my predictions before last night, so I'm not going to let last night change my mind. I'm going Blue Coats.
I'm also going Blue Coats. I think, especially because of last year, Changes Everything was practically perfect on the visual front. This show is very visually similar. It's a very similar core. I really think they're just going to clean, and it's just going to be absurdly clean visually by next week.
Let me say that I would rather watch the Boston's drill.
Yeah, the props are a little cluttered.
But I think Blue's going to win visual. Okay, we'll finish up our caption awards with General Effect. If you're not familiar with General Effect, it is very similar to its name. It's the overall impact that the performance has, taking both visual and musical elements into consideration. It should also be noted that I forgot to look this up. I meant to look up the number. So I'll just say a lot of the time, if not almost all of the time, the winner of General Effect also wins the gold medal because General Effect is the effect of the whole show. It's guard, it's drill, it's music, it's drums. It's sort of all of the captions rolled into one.
It's like 8 out of every 10 years.
It's something.
General Effect winner wins it all.
Okay, so who's winning GE?
I think it's going to be really tight, but I think it's going to have to be the Blue Coats. I think their repertoire, I think it's much more artistic. I think judges tend to like the artistic sort of vague shows more than something that's just cool the whole time, but I do think it's really close between Boston and Blue.
We agree on that. I'm going Blue Coats as well. I think the props are just super cool, and they use them in a really effective way. They stack them, they push them, they move them, they spin them.
They hide people in them.
They hide people in them. They put soloists on them. Yeah,
Super
the show just absolutely works on every single level for me. Let's move on to finals scores. This is just the finals night score. The ranking of the top 12 is not an accumulation of points. It's just one night, one score, all the marbles. We're not going to do the whole top 12 in order, but let's talk about the 12th spot. That is a tricky spot because if you get in that 12th spot, you get to perform at the big show on Saturday night. It's kind of close. There's about 4 cores, although after last night in the current rankings is really 3 cores. Colts kind of separated themselves last night with the rankings, but there's kind of 4 cores sort of in the mix for the last spot. Colts, Blue Knights, Spirit of Atlanta, and Madison Scouts are all separated by about 3.5 points between those 3 or 4 cores. So which 2 get in? Colts, Blue Knights, Spirit, or Scouts?
Before I say my predictions, I would like to say I would really like it if the Scouts would get in. Historically, I've really liked them. It's a core I might want to march someday. But I think, especially after the scores from last night and seeing them live, I don't know if there's enough substance in that show to make that happen. I definitely think the Colts are making it, and I think because of repertoire and also the cleanliness of visual, I think the Blue Knights are the other core that are getting in, and I think the Blue Knights will be in 11th, and I think the Colts will be in 12th.
Ooh, a little additional prediction there. Okay. I'm also going Colts. They've separated themselves last night by score. I like that show. It's a dream show, but man, it's crazy. It's a crazy show, and I cannot let my head overrule my heart. Madison, for me, is a first love drum corps from the 90s. Malagueña all day. We heard him in the warm-up arc last night.
So cool.
And they did a tuning chorale sort of that was extended by Malagueña. And to be honest, if Madison came out every single year and just played 12 minutes of Malagueña, I would be so happy with my life. They don't do it in their show. They don't do Malagueña in their show. I'm going Madison. It's probably not. That's probably going to be a wrong prediction.
Wow.
I'm going Colts and Scouts. Okay, top 3. No order yet, but who's going to make the top 3? We got a little bit of a, especially for that 3rd spot. There's a little bit of a pretty decent race in here. Blue Devils have never in the history of the earth not been a medalist.
Since 2007.
Yeah, and then that was just once, and they were medal. I think in the last 50 years, it's only been 3 or 4 or 5 times that they haven't medaled. SCV is up there. Phantom is nipping on the door, kind of getting into the mix. So who you got? Top 3 in any order.
No order, Bluecoats and Boston are easily making the top 3. I think they're fighting it out for the gold. And then my 3rd is going to be Santa Clara Vanguard.
I'm going same top 3, Blue, BAC, and SCV. I'm putting SCV there mostly because I love that they have no props.
Very cool.
And I know we've talked about Mandarin's props and Bluecoat's props, PAC's props. And props is a big part of any show.
Sure.
And they do have sort of those circle things and the arm extender. I mean, they have things, but it's drum corps. It's play it, it's march it, and I hope that gets rewarded. The drill is great, and I hope it gets a medal. Winner, who you got? Just gold medal, straight up. Tell me who's going to win. Probably it's between Bluecoats and Boston.
They've been fighting it out all year. Bluecoats beat them at the first show they were at together, and then Boston won the next one. Boston won at San Antonio, but based on last week's scores, Bluecoats are half a point higher, and there's only 2 weeks left, so it's hard to tell. My head says the Bluecoats because they won last year and because they are historically a better core. Boston has never won a championship before, even though Bluecoats have only won 2. And I think Bluecoats statistically are more likely. I'm going to pick Boston anyway. I think that show is just so cool. I think the energy they're putting on the field, to me, it just feels like their year. I think we're going to see Boston win the championship for the first time this year.
I told myself I was only going to make a prediction after you made a prediction, and I was just going to pick the other thing because I'm with you. Head says Bluecoats. They have the pedigree. They've been there. They won last year. They've got the history. And heart says Boston because they're almost always my favorite show, and this year included, as we've documented. But just for the sake of argument, since you said Boston, I'm going to say Bluecoats. Their show is already ridiculously clean. I think they're going to continue to do that. I think that they've got probably something up their sleeve. I don't know if it's taking off the jackets or one more color. Late last season, they sort of took off the top and had the yellow underneath. They added on a little bit of a tag last year at the very last couple of 7 or 10 days.
They're always hiding something.
They're always hiding something. We knew Boston had a do ending. We knew what we had already seen wasn't the ending. And now we've seen it, and it's awesome. And I'm not saying there's not something else that they have too, but the Bluecoats show hasn't changed significantly in weeks.
But it will.
But it's going to. There is
Changes
something
everything.
else. There is something else that the Bluecoats have. So, look, if Boston wins, I'm going to jump through the ceiling. I love Boston. I love that show. I want them to win. It's going to be great. But for the sake of argument, I'm picking Bluecoats. Write it down. Those are our predictions from the Sloan men's household. You're asking where Dawn was. I asked her if she wanted to be a part of this. She said, no, thanks. You guys do it on your own. So thanks for joining me today, Harrison.
Absolutely.
We'll see on finals night how we did. Hey, in a couple weeks, you want to be back? Talk some Star Wars next time?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Can talk about how much I hate The Last Jedi.
Oh, hot take. Hot take. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in a little bit. Welcome to the Composer Arranger's Corner. That doesn't have a neat nickname yet. Maybe we need to find one. Today we're discussing a little bit of Finale versus Dorico. I'm a Finale user since 1993, before many of you were even alive. I got my first version in my freshman year of college when I borrowed a stack of 3.5-inch floppy disks from Mark Reynolds. Yes, that's right. We used to transfer data on floppy disks. You know that little save icon? That's a floppy disk. That's why it's there, because you could save stuff to the floppy disk. Shortly after that, I bought my own copy of Finale because I needed to have the 3 huge spiral-bound manuals and the 4-page quick guide in order to figure out how to add a quarter note into my first measure. It was a very difficult program to use way back then. The learning curve was huge, but I'm a lifer. I stood up against the Sibelius users, I stood up against the MuseScore users, and I stood proudly and firmly in the Finale Forever camp. I even stood by Finale when my crash cymbals sounded like a police whistle, even when the formatting was complete and utter garbage, even when they took away the mass mover tool. I was a loyalist, and I was the loyal of the loyalists. Some even called me a Finale fanboy, and I wore that proudly. And then almost a year ago, Finale broke my heart. No more updates, no more support. Finale is over. Thousands of files, thousands of hours gone. I felt betrayed. After all I did for them, after all I stood up for, the blood, sweat, and tears over percussion mapping, gone. What next? Sure, I could use Finale for a little while, but eventually my OS software is going to update, and I'm not going to be able to use the functionality of Finale. I've got to move on. First thing I did was turn off my MacBook OS updates so that I could continue to use it while I figured out what was going on, and then I waited. I stood back, see how the dust would settle. Shortly after that, they told us about a program that they suggested we switch to called Dorico. And I thought, Finale broke my heart. Do I really want to take their advice? Do I really want to switch to Sibelius, which I have decried for years upon years? I researched, I watched videos, I asked around. During the Thanksgiving break from school, I downloaded a free demo of Dorico. My plan was to spend a week or so with Dorico, maybe 2, and then a week or so with Sibelius. They had a free download demo version too, and then I would decide. You see, as a marching band arranger, the new writing season starts in mid to late December. That's when clients start picking shows, and December break is a really good time around Christmas and New Year that I have a lot of time to write, so I can write a lot of sketches and drafts during that time. And so I wanted to start off my new writing season with the new program. No reason to be transferring files. The band director version of me would continue to use Finale for now. You see, as a band director, sometimes you got to sit down real super quick, knock out an etude, write a scale, write a thing for a kid, and any new program was going to be way too new. So I was going to bide my time with Finale on the quick edits, but transfer to a new program as soon as writing season hit. I opened Dorico. It was weird. It looked different. It felt different. Everything was different. Even the numbers that indicate the durations are different. Why? Why are they all off by 1? Why is 6 a quarter note and not 5? Come on. Why would they even do that? There was probably a really good reason. I spent hundreds of hours scouring YouTube for Finale to Dorico transition videos, and there were a lot. I watched hundreds of hours of videos getting the hang of it, see the thing, try the thing, do the thing. I made mistakes. I was frustrated. I would scream and shout. I wanted to throw my computer through the wall. Occasionally I would open Finale, and it felt like going back to your ex-girlfriend. She was flawed, sure, but you knew her flaws and how to work around those flaws. It felt like home. Fast forward to today, almost a year later, I love Dorico. I love it. The workflow is better. The key shortcuts make sense. The program is far, far more intuitive. The percussion maps work. They work. They sound like what they're supposed to sound like, boys and girls. And wait until I tell you about score and part formatting. You know, in Finale, when you look at the clarinet part and all 900 measures are in a 2-inch line at the top of the page, that doesn't happen anymore, my friends. A Finale fanboy is here to tell you, if you are resisting, if you are still opening Finale and hoping that your OS did not update, stop resisting, download it, jump in, get frustrated, scour YouTube for help. Call me for tutoring. I'm no expert, but I can get you started. $20 an hour, by the way, for that service. Look, I'll never forget the good times I had with Finale. My first cadence, my first marching band arrangement, my first original concert band piece, my first good original concert band piece. We made a lot of good memories together. And then she broke my heart. She kicked me to the curb when I'm not sure she had to. She made up reasons about programming and subscriptions and coding that I think she may have blown out of proportion and probably could have overlooked. It wasn't me. It was her, and I'm not sure I'll ever fully recover. But you know what? Dorico is my hot new girl who moves faster, works better, and has special curves in all the right places. Honestly, if Finale ever calls me to rekindle the flame, I will be very, very tempted. All those good times and good music and all those files. Reliving those good times would maybe be a dream come true. But for now, I'll live and I'll move on. Dorico rocks.
That's it. No, breathe. Find your happy place.
Welcome to the rant of the week. We're going to complain this week about people who complain about drum corps. I'm not talking about people who don't like drum corps. That's different. You're allowed to not like the things you don't like. Not a problem. There's a lot of things I don't like. I don't watch them. I don't participate in them. Nope. I'm talking about the toxic back in my day people. Now, we all like to relive the good old days, and as you get older, you'll experience more of that. But I'm talking about back in my day, we didn't need microphones. Back in my day, we only had 2 valves and we liked it. Back in my day, we didn't need props. Back in my day, we wore blue coats. Newsflash, it's 2025. We no longer use rotary phones. We all have power steering and anti-lock brakes in our cars. What about Wi-Fi? Are you using Wi-Fi and cell phones? Air conditioning? Of course you are. Things change. Things evolve. Sure, look, I loved growing up sweating in the air without air conditioning in the car and the house as much as the next person. but things change. It's okay to like the old days, the old shows. Listen to last episode. I talked about shows I liked in the 90s. I didn't do the 80s, but I could have. West Side Story from the Cadets, Santa Clara's Phantom of the Opera shows. Look, you want to go back before that? I love the 27th Lancers. Danny Boy, oh, that's such good stuff. But I also recognize that things change. And I love modern drum corps as well. Drum corps is not likely to change, going back to G bugles and strapping on a set of marching timpani and marching around the field with chimes. So if you don't like the modern times, that's fine. Get out your film strips of the 1972 Anaheim Kingsmen and just don't watch the modern stuff. Also, don't use air conditioning. Put down that cell phone because back in my day, we didn't have those things either. No one is going to judge you for not watching drum corps, but stop trying to steal the joy of us that do. Stop trying to steal the joy of the staffs and the kids that are busting their butts in drum corps today, because it's not fair to them. You don't like it? Don't watch it. I feel better. Do you feel better? I think sometimes a rant is a good thing, don't you? Sometimes venting frustration gets it out into the world and, you can move on having put yourself in a better mental place, better having cleared your mind. And I feel better. Homework for the week. Homework for the week is go for a walk. That's it. That's the homework. But it is a little more complicated than that. Take a 20 to 30 minute walk. Slow pace, no rush. And you have to do it without a cell phone, without headphones, and without tech distractions. Now, if you want your cell phone in your pocket because you're tracking steps, fine. But leave it in your pocket. Turn the sound off. Leave it off and put it in your pocket. Enjoy the day. Enjoy nature. Listen for the barking dogs. Listen for children laughing and playing. What about birds flying overhead? That's the homework. Take a relaxing walk and enjoy the world around you without technology and without a podcast. Okay, that's our episode. Make sure you leave a rating or a comment. We hope you'll join us next time as we discuss Star Wars, grilling, and something neat with Matt, as well as garage sale traffic. Thanks for joining me today. The theme music today is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. Our show logo was designed by John Suh. Leave a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app you listen with. Ratings will help us get noticed. Constructive comments and messages help us get better. I hope you will join us next time for more reflections and ranting on Cymbals and Cynicism.